All right, welcome back to World's Strongest Opinions. This is episode 17. Special guest today is Ollie Clarke, kind of new to the scene of U105 strongman. He's a winner of the under 23 Britain's Strongest Man, youngest man on Channel 5, UK Strongest Man, and world record holder in all three lifts in the 15 to 16-year-old category, powerlifting. Again, Ollie Clarke, welcome to the show, man. Really glad to have you on.
Thank you guys for having me. Great to be here.
Yeah, welcome.
And as we always do at the start of our shows, we play. Well, actually, I shouldn't say always. We didn't last time. We skipped it for a special session last time, but we like to play games on our show to get things started. Trash or treasure. Have explained the rules before, right? I'm just going to say a lift or a piece of equipment, something along those lines. We're going to trash or treasure and kind of just discuss and have a little fun about why we think they are trash or treasure. So if we're ready to go, the first one up is grip shirts. Ollie.
I'd say it depends, but I'll go for treasure.
Okay. John?
I personally consider them a treasure. I know that a lot of people don't like them, but it's nice to have if you're allowed to have it. If you have to wear it under your shirt, then it's like.
Yeah, I will wear them if they're allowed, but I think they're total trash.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think if you're allowed, then they can be good. But if it was up to me, I'd ban them from every comp. Yeah.
And I mean, I say trash just because I don't like them. I mean, they obviously do a lot. They're very beneficial, right? But to me, they're like too beneficial. Yeah. They if I don't train with a grip shirt and then I put it on like a log clean, I almost take my head off almost every time because I've trained without it. I know how to clean a log, and I kind of feel like if you know how to clean, a log or an axle, you don't need a grip shirt. It's totally superfluous to anything you need. I hate them. I think they're just overkill to the next level of cheat.
Yeah, I think especially on log cleans as well, like you say, sometimes they can even get stuck to your toe as you're trying to clean it, and it will just mess the whole lift up. So yeah, I'm not a fan.
Yeah. So you change your vote to trash, Ollie?
Yeah, I would say trash overall. Yeah, it's got to be.
Yeah. I think it's a nuanced thing because I think they're so effective that it's a treasure for getting the lift up, but it's a lot. It's kind of in a way of if at a powerlifting meet suddenly out of nowhere they're you can use figure 8 straps if you want to. It's that defeats the whole purpose of the thing. It's definitely different feel. It is funny though watching people occasionally wear grip shirts when they're trying to clean sandbags and it just the grip shirt stops it, so it's just this awkward
Yep.
That's always a bit funny to me when I'm because I've seen a few people do that and I'm ooh, that's a bold move, wearing a shirt that's holding the bag down a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's the mix of it's a treasure for how effective it is, but it's should it be used in comp? Probably not.
Yeah.
But I mean, strongman is for cheating, so cheat everything. All right. So I think I was 2-1 trash at the end of the day. I mean, and it's getting crazy now. There's grip shorts too. It's do we need to have an entire suit of armor to compete? I don't know. So this next one is kind of in the same vein. Neoprene warm pants. Ollie.
I would say treasure. Yeah, I personally don't think they really add anything. I think they'll just kind of make you feel sturdy and feel right. So I would say treasure. Yeah.
Okay, John.
Yeah, I like how they feel and everything. They're nice little comfortable. It's mainly just compression. It's kind of like knee sleeves, but for your thighs. So
yeah. I'm again. I hate them. I absolutely hate them. They're they just create a swamp in your shorts, man, in your ass. And it's every time I've ever worn them, I get these just giant pimples on my ass.
Yeah.
And I hate them.
Yeah. I do prefer normal skins, normal thermal skins instead of them.
For sure. So, John, any other thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of like, I do like how they feel, but I don't like them for extended use. Like that's the thing, is I would break them out for something specific, but it's kind of like the inconvenience factor of trying to take them off because they're not like knee sleeves where you can just slide them off. Like
Right.
that's what creates kind of a mixed bag. But I like the feel occasionally and
Yeah.
everything. But I 100%, I don't know how people like, I've seen people wear them at like 8 to 10 hour events. I'm like, that sounds miserable.
Yeah.
To me, it's a lot like squat briefs. Like you put them on for what you need them for, then just take them off. But they are easier than squat briefs to take off. So that's a point for them.
Yeah,
So,
I refer to them colloquially as swamp shorts. So
Yeah, I like that one. Yeah.
swamp shorts. All right. I don't know. I guess 2-1 was treasure on those. Yeah. The next one is a power pole. Ollie.
A power pull.
Yeah, so I think I think it's Donna Moore who famously has the picture of it's like the big pegging cock walking around. Right?
Yeah. It's a tough one. I'll probably say trash.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll say trash.
I feel like it's one of those inventions to like, they're like, oh, it trains a specific thing. Like it helps you stay upright. It helps you do all these things. Like I don't know. I feel like there's probably better things you could get that train the same thing. So it's a lot like front squat harnesses. Not a fan of those either. I'm like, you can train that without buying some crazy piece of metal equipment.
Yeah.
They do look goofy as hell though too. Having the weight just hang out from this pole that's like 3 feet from you. It's just like, I guess for the meme, it's kind of like the shake weight, like depending on how you look at it.
That's where I'm leaning, man. I'm leaning towards the meme. It's treasure because of the meme value.
Yeah.
The meme value is invaluable. It's priceless. I mean, the fact that was ever invented is just, I mean, mind-bogglingly hilarious. I don't know. And then, it looks just amazing when people use it. I mean, how can you not just have a laugh? I don't know.
Yeah,
But
Such
at
a
the
good
end of the
clip.
day, I mean, yeah, it's pretty much pointless other than the meme value. But I got to go with treasure just because of the meme value. Any other thoughts, Ollie?
No, I agree with you. I think it's definitely a spectacle to look at. But yeah, other than that, I'd probably trash it.
Yeah. John, you're still. Well, I don't know.
It's kind of like on the fence now because I'm like, you make a good case for that. Like, it is goofy and everything, but I would say it's hard because you have to pick trash or treasure. It's like I wouldn't spend money on it, but I think it's a funny invention. So it's like maybe we can call it the pocket treasure.
The pocket
like,
treasure.
How valuable is that? It's not too valuable. Like I wouldn't spend money on it, but like if someone was like, "Hey, I have a free power pole," I'd be like, "I guess I'll just like try it out, do walks down the street with it, just a kettlebell hanging off the end." I'm like, I'm training my stability here. People would be like, "Couldn't you just do front squats or anything else that trains upright stability?" Like,
yeah. On one hand, I'm really. I mean, it was actually Vogelpohl who I think invented it, right? I'm so happy it was invented, but on the other hand, I would never in a million years spend any money on it. All right. I don't know if there was a consensus on that, but maybe a pocket treasure. We'll roll with that. Pocket treasure. That's like the best term that's ever come out of trash or treasure. Pocket treasure. All right. Belt cleans. Ollie.
I'm gonna say treasure on this one. Yeah, I would say treasure, and that's really just because of I'm a lighter guy now rather than being an opens competitor anymore. It does definitely help when you haven't got that stomach there to get the ledge.
Yeah, for sure. John?
As someone who's not a super heavyweight, they're definitely a treasure in my mind. Like everyone I know who hates them, they're like, I don't know why you need it. And I'm like, you have this shelf that you can just sit there with for a while, like catch your breath and then just
Yeah.
bounce it up.
Yeah, treasure. I mean, for so many reasons. Again, meme value was huge. So it gets points for meme value. But yeah, I'm biased because when Anthony Furman originally allowed them for the online qualifiers in 2021, my knee was so jacked up that there was no way I could have cleaned without the belt clean. Like it was everything for my qualifiers. So I'm a little biased, but yeah, at the end of the day, I think, I think about them like grip shirts. I hate them because they're too much, but then belt cleans are like ultra cheap. I don't know. But I think they're a treasure for the lighter guys for sure. You don't have the power belly that, and at the end of the day, I mean, a continental clean's not very athletic anyhow. So I don't think it's worth splitting it over.
Yeah. And I think you're always going to be able to wear a belt at any kind of comp or any event. So it's not like a grip shirt, like you say, where it's something totally different you're throwing in there. Everyone always can wear a belt. So it's just using it a little bit to your advantage.
Yeah. I mean, cleaning an axle with a grip shirt is just silly. I mean, it's basically the same thing, only, I mean, even a little bit more advantageous because you can certainly in a much easier fashion get the bar higher, right? And it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we all agree on treasure on belt cleans.
Yeah, and to be fair, like the whole point, like when weightlifting belts were first used, the whole utility for them was to help clean the weight and everything. It wasn't like this huge like stability thing, like partially stability, but like originally they were like, that's how you clean. You do a belt clean. I feel like back in the day, maybe there were a bit less super heavy weights, but like that might be a controversial opinion that people have just gotten heavier.
So the Continental Clean started. I think the Germans were doing it in very early Olympic lifting, and it was banned because it wasn't athletic enough. That's like literally the reasoning behind it. I'd be curious if they belt cleaned all those years ago.
I'm pretty sure because I'm pretty sure the belt started out specifically. Most people, they were like, oh, it makes cleaning easier. So like originally belt cleans were the thing, and then people, they were like, oh, it's not nearly as cool.
We need to look into that. That would be a great history lesson for belt cleans, for the justification of belt cleans. All right, so treasure on belt cleans, sumo deadlifts, Ollie.
Sumo deadlifts. I'm going to say treasure, and that's just because I like to use them as an assistance, like a piece of assistance. But in terms of comparing it to an actual conventional deadlift, then I would say trash, if you know what I mean.
Okay. John?
Yeah, I would say they're, yeah, I think it definitely is a helpful accessory movement. And it actually requires way more mobility than you would think. Like my sumo is actually not better than my conventional because I just can't get into a good position for it to be comfortable. So I think oftentimes people look at like the goofiest, like the meme lift of like your toes touching the plates, like zero range of motion. But some of the best sumo pullers out there, like Jamal Browner, his sumo and his conventional are just like, it's a 3-inch difference. Like, because his feet actually aren't out that wide. So I don't know. I think it's a treasure. We'll defend it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I've often had a hard time comparing it to conventionals because it is a little bit of a different lift. But I think it is a treasure. I mean, especially from the assistant's perspective. But also you've got, and I know this is going to be a never-ending argument and debate in powerlifting specifically, which is better. But sumo's getting a bad rap now because they're dominating the deadlift, and everybody's saying, well, it's a shorter range of motion. But the fact is not that long ago, the conventional deadlift dominated the deadlift in powerlifting, and it was assumed that was the superior deadlift because of that. Now sumo is dominating, so I kind of have a hard time with the with the argument that one is really better than the other. I don't think that there is that much of an advantage to sumo. I think you just have some really powerful sumo deadlifters that have come to the scenes recently and are proving that they can pull a lot of weight with that over conventional. And plus, Jamal Browner, is it Sean Hunt? Those guys have like insane conventional deadlifts also. And a lot of times people are trashing on these guys pulling sumo when their conventional is still stronger than the people that are trashing on them. So I got to go with Treasure. I mean, it's clearly proving very beneficial for the guys that are dominating in powerlifting right now with sumo deadlift. And I really think I really want to see sumo in strongman. And I'm not sure. I haven't looked into it yet, but it seems like either – I don't know. There's been some rumors that there might be a sumo deadlift at Clash. I don't know this year.
Yeah, I've been seeing everyone doing them and everything. I was like, I think, I mean, at this point, I mean, so many conventions have like the Ukrainian deadlift. That's basically a sumo. There's the new one, the lever thing. People like starting at that end and you go like, it's heavier and heavier. So I think more and more you're going to have to train it, because if you don't have a good Ukrainian deadlift setup, and 100% if you don't have one of those little staggered deadlift things, training sumo is probably your best bet for training that similar movement.
Yeah.
So I think it's coming around.
So they're literally doing sumo already, just not calling it sumo.
Yeah.
It's the word. It's the word that strongman's afraid of.
It's from the years of memes over the years, isn't it? Just been diminished.
Yeah, exactly. That's odd. And I mean, really, you sumo deadlift an Atlas stone too. I mean, more or less, right?
Yeah, that's it.
It's true. Zercher's basically a sumo. Your arms are inside your legs. So
absolutely. Well, it depends on style. You watch Camby, he goes outside of his legs, right? I'm pretty sure he does.
No, he actually does that. He puts his hands right in the center.
No,
I think
Camby doesn't. I think I'm really one of the few that does that, actually.
Maybe we have to relook at it.
Yeah. I think Camby goes outside his legs, but I think most people maybe go inside. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, sumo. It seems like sumo just has like the term, the name has the bad rap. It's not the actual lift; it's the name. If we just name it something else, all is good.
Yeah, 100%.
I did.
All right. Well, I think we all agree that sumo deadlifts, regardless of what they're called, are beneficial in Treasure. All right. Last one here. Basque stone loading. Ollie.
I'm gonna say Treasure. Yeah, I think it's a good test of strength. It's good to look at. Yeah, definitely, I'll go with Treasure.
Yeah, John.
Yeah, I was just watching Martins do it and everything, and it's impressive. In general, I'm a fan of like any sort of uplifting. Generally a fan, so I'll say Treasure.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Basque stone loading, and I think Basque stone loading should be in strongman also. And it actually surprises me that strongman's been around for, I don't know, what is it now, 40 plus years, almost 45 years. I don't know if Basque stone loading's ever been in a strongman competition. I don't know.
I don't think it has. You would have thought it'd be like one of the originals, like the Husafel, that kind of stuff, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. Because I mean, these guys now, Basque stone loading has a few different types of stones and things that they do, right? They have natural round Atlas stones. They're complete, as far as I understand it, they're carved out. They're not poured. And so they do a lot of stone to shoulder and this crazy shit where they roll it around their neck, but what we see is like the rectangular stones that have there's levers on them or handles. But the world record Basque stone to the shoulder is 329 kilos, man.
Jeez.
It's fucking insane.
Kilos. That when you said 329, I was like, okay, like that's a pretty big stone.
329 kilograms to the shoulder.
Yeah.
There's something going on in the Basque region that is not getting enough attention, in my opinion. And I mean, you watch Martins. I mean, he just did a 200 kilogram, and I mean, granted, he's kind of new to it, but I mean, here's the world's strongest man, Rogue Invitational winner, and he's kind of struggling a little bit with that weight. And I mean, that's still another 129 kilograms less than the world record. So there's a really great documentary if you've never watched it, and I'm probably going to screw this up, but it's called Laventadores, I think, is the documentary by Rogue. I think you can watch it for free on YouTube. I've watched it, and it covers all the Basque stone lifting. It's freaking amazing. Absolutely amazing. And I can't believe that Strongman has never capitalized on this.
Yeah, because Rogue has the whole series of like different stone loading and stuff. Because there was like Usafel, which the Iceland one, and then they talk about some like other countries. But yeah, that Basque stone loading was crazy.
Yeah, huge treasure in the strength world, in my opinion. I mean, it's phenomenal what those guys are doing. So cool. Yeah. I think we agree there. Good stuff, man. I freaking love this. I love treasure, man. It's always a good time. It's always a good conversation to have a little fun with. But let's turn our attention to Ollie. First of all, I mean, I know you're a strength coach. You spend a lot. Is that what you do full time?
Yeah, that's what I do full time. Yeah.
Nice. I mean, that's awesome. So it gives you really a lot of flexibility in your training, I'm sure. I mean, you're kind of living it every day. Do you think that that's kind of partially, how do I want to word it? Like, do you find that to be really beneficial to your ability to compete and be the most effective athlete possible? And the reason I ask is, like myself, I competed for over 14 years, and, I worked in like industrial environments. I worked a lot of hours and still tried to put that all together. And I often kind of wonder, I've never put myself in the shoes of a coach. Is that more beneficial, do you think, than, having another full-time job? Does that give you an advantage?
Yeah, I would say 1000%. I kind of, luckily for me, I started so young. I always kind of knew the way I wanted to go. So I was able to kind of plan what I want to do for work around that. And obviously, I wanted to go with my passion. So learning about strength coaching was the clear place to go. But because it's all online, it helps so much of competitions like traveling to OSG or traveling to Clash and being there. Because I'm from the UK, I'll often stay there a bit longer to make the most of it. So being able to work out there, still speak to clients all the time, do check-ins and that kind of stuff, just schedule-wise really helps. And the same thing with just general day-to-day training, being kind of on your own schedule and allowing yourself to prioritize the time you train and that kind of stuff around your work. And it really does help, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that would be amazing to have that kind of flexibility. One of the things that I've always struggled with, certainly, right, is being able to have to work around work and having tight schedules and whatnot. So yeah, huge. That's awesome. What's on the schedule for the future for you as far as competitions?
Yeah, so for this year, my plan is to push under 105s, but also the juniors. So I'm 22 at the moment. Juniors is under 23. So my plan for this year is to win under 23 UK Strongest Man again, and then do as well as I can at Worlds. But the main thing as well is under 105, Britain's Strongest Man. I want to win that competition. I also want to. They've got. I think they're going to bring Europe's strongest, like official strongman games, Europe's this year as well. They had it a few years ago, but I'm not sure why it went away for a little bit. So I think they're bringing that back, which I'd really like to do well at. And then the same with Worlds towards the end of the year.
And when you say World, do you mean OSG?
OSG Worlds, that's it. Yeah.
Okay. I was kind of wondering. I remember that year, that OSG Europe's, and I was kind of wondering what happened to that.
Yeah, I'm not really sure because they did it, I think, for a couple of years. It might have been the COVID situation and then just not bringing it back yet or something like that. But I hear they're going to bring it this year.
Yeah. Nice. John, I don't want to do all the talking if you have questions to ask you.
No, I was saying because I was surprised, especially if like since OSG they've been talking about how it's like the way to get to Giants Live and stuff. You'd think they'd be focusing on the Europe version as well, just because it is much harder for athletes to make it across the pond unless you're working full time as a coach and everything. So, are all your athletes mostly online, or do you do in-person coaching as well?
Yeah, so right now everyone's online. I did have a little gym for a bit, for about a year or so. I've just got out of it, and that was really the same reason. I just wanted to have that flexibility. It was kind of taking up a bit too much of my time, and the way I see it right now for me is because I want this so bad and to do as well as I can in strongman so bad, I would rather put all my eggs in that and really just hone in and focus on my training, and that being my main priority with everything. So yeah, I stepped away from the in-person coaching and moved more towards just being online. I am, however, going to be opening up some group strongman training sessions, but that's just a little bit on the side.
That makes sense because essentially, I mean, once you own a gym, like you've experienced it, that essentially you're a small business owner and now you have to take care of like an actual physical structure. You have to think of like opening, taking care of all these things. And essentially you're taking on a full-time job. Like no matter how you manage that gym, unless you have very limited hours and stuff, like it's going to be an endeavor and everything. But also, when did you first realize that you were strong? Because you're fairly young, but it sounds like you've been doing this for a decent amount of time, at least 7 years.
Yeah,
it sounds like.
Yeah, I've been training for age. So my whole journey started because as a kid, I was really overweight and fat, and then I was bullied because of it. So I wanted to lose weight, and I was young at the time. I was we call it primary school. So I was about 9 or 10 years old, and I decided, like, because I was being bullied, I wanted to lose weight. So I didn't really have a clue how to lose weight. I just thought you don't eat. So I just started eating less and less. But I got so addicted to it and addicted to losing weight, and it become more and more of an obsession. And this happened probably over the space of 2 years, to the point where I was like in hospital seeing counsellors because I developed anorexia. I really bad anorexia, and like my whole mindset at such a young age as well was just messed up really. So seeing the counsellors, to be honest, didn't really help too much. It never really solved any problems. But what did was joining a gym when I was 11 and being able to actually start lifting weights and seeing myself progress and building muscle and actually building like that self-confidence. And from that, I never had plans to want to compete, but from getting stronger, being 11, I signed up for my first competition at 13. And I remember it was a British record at the time for the weight class, and it was like a 100-kilogram bench press or something, 13. And when I did that at my first comp, I was just hooked and buzzing ever since. So from 13 to 17, I competed in powerlifting, and it got to the point where every comp I was kind of breaking world records and stuff because I was at the top for my age class, and I just wanted like a new challenge. So at 17, I decided to sign up for my first strongman comp and just been hooked ever since.
That makes sense. That's good to hear. Because also, I think I'm glad that you overcame like the eating disorders and stuff, because I think we don't necessarily, at least here in the US, we don't necessarily teach healthy relationships with food very much, especially at a young age. Like people are just like, either you're like, oh, you just eat less. Like if you're fat, it's because you ate too much, which there's no explanation of like what you do on the side. Because I think I watched Gym Life Media. Joe was talking about there's some study that came out that said like for overweight kids, you should consider like medication and surgery. Like they were saying that some kids now, they actually gave them pills to like suppress their appetite or pills that make food taste terrible. So you just don't want to eat. And I was like, I feel like we skipped a few steps there for kids, like to essentially go from like eating too much and then,
That's ridiculous. I think there should be definitely as in place in education systems, they should have it on nutrition and food. Like they teach maths and they teach you about all these equations and stuff you need to learn, which you never actually use later in life in general. But actual education on nutrition, how to diet, and learning about macros and kind of stuff, I think that's what's needed, especially with the generation we're in.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I use math a lot, but
but I mean, Darin's mentioned it too, though, of like how many people say that like dieting is miserable, or you can't eat good food, or you can't do this, like you can't eat what you want.
I think I mean, there's a lot of nuances there. There's a lot of facets. You know, and I wish I need to go and read the article again that I read and get this doctor's name. But part of that research, one of I think he was one of the primary research leads, this doctor. He actually says in there that, and this blows my fucking mind that this was ever said, is that there's too much emphasis by society on diet and exercise for weight loss. This is literally what they're actually campaigning against it at this point in favor of pharmaceuticals. It's lunacy. But at the same time, you know, my wife was a teacher, and she's always kind of got the other perspective that I don't think we ever think about either, is that, you know, these children, if they're growing up in a home with obese parents, they're going to adopt the habits and the behaviors of the parents. And you know, you can't, the children are kind of the victims in this, right? And so unless the parents take it upon themselves to change, right, the child is still kind of exposed to that. And so I'm not saying that I agree with pharmaceuticals, but I mean, exercise and diet, nutrition should be certainly emphasized in school, in primary school and beyond. But at the same time, you have to kind of think that, you know, these children may not have an alternative in their life if their parents aren't helping either, right? So I think there's probably, unfortunately at this point, a need for both. But, you know, as a society, as, you know, across the world, we need to start emphasizing diet and exercise more, and start, you know, changing the culture that has created this obesity epidemic in the first place.
100%.
Definitely. Yeah. Because I think, I mean, also, whenever people talk about diet, too, of like, there's a lot of inaccurate information, or this idea that like you have so many people that are like, oh, to lose weight, like cut out meat, cut out cheese, cut out like all these things. And you're like, for most people, if you're talking about calorie rich and nutritionally dense food, meat and dairy is like paramount there. So on one side, you have people who either are not hearing enough, or the only thing they're hearing about proper diet is like, oh, you need to eat more salads or whatever. And it's like, in reality, for the average person, you can get a carton of 36 eggs at Walmart for, even with inflation, it's still cheaper than most prepared meals are and everything. But if you have a systemic campaign that says, hey, kids, you want to lose weight? Eat this Impossible Burger, eat the salad, eat these things that, of course, companies are making hand over fist profits. So you have pharmaceutical companies on one hand saying, buy our medicine to save money or to lose weight. And then you have like companies being like, hey, spend $12 on a gourmet salad. And you're like, there's not very much nutrition there. So I think it's a challenge, especially, I mean, for young people, especially if all you're seeing is information from the internet and everything, it can be hard to get like accurate information and stuff. Because how was your diet growing up as a kid then, Ollie? Or what was like things like growing up there?
Yeah, generally just growing up, I'd eat like what a normal kid would eat. Let's say normal, just like, you know, cereal for breakfast, and then sandwiches and some crisps for lunch or something like that, and then just like a dinner with your family, like spaghetti bolognese, pizza or something. But when you're a kid and people grow at certain times and that kind of stuff, your body composition is always changing. But I think, like we said, if there was something in place where there wasn't all this contradicting information you see online, and you could actually learn the basics and the staples while you're in school, then that will prevent so much of these issues happening later in life or while you're growing up.
Yeah. It's bizarre to me that there's so little emphasis on health. I mean, it's not just school, right? I mean, even when, we experienced this whole COVID pandemic across the world, I think most governments, not all, I know Finland specifically encouraged their citizens to get out and exercise more and be healthier, because there was an understanding that people that were healthier and exercising regularly withstood the virus better. But, I think in a lot of countries, specifically here in the United States and Canada, I know, there was anything but an emphasis on exercise. Again, it's almost like there's forces trying to steer us away from this healthy habits and behaviors, and I don't know. I mean, it's going to be up to the citizens themselves to really start pushing this message and kind of combating the misinformation, I think, that unfortunately continues to be disseminated from governments and government agencies for whatever their agendas are.
So how's it like in the UK going through all that? Did that impact, like, for your clients? Do you see how is everyone impacted by just the general COVID measures that took place over the past few years there? As long as you don't get in trouble for, I don't know how people feel about things there. I know people, it's a very touchy subject.
World's strongest opinions, man. You've got to say what's on your mind.
Say it.
It doesn't matter what people think, because you're not going to please everybody. Some people are going to agree and some people are going to disagree, no matter what we say, right?
Sure. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think, to be honest, now, the situation now, really, where I'm from and where the people are around me, everyone's sort of forgotten about it. Like, it's just happened, and then it's just moved on. I don't know, it's probably similar for you guys. Like, gyms are now totally back to normal. I think a lot of people's mindsets have changed, though. Like, a lot of people, they don't want to go to work. They want to work at home instead, because they're so used to that. A lot of people got home gyms while they was in the lockdown. So a lot of people were just training at home. They're not even going to the gym anymore. So yeah, I think for the most part, it's just like it's never happened. But yeah, a few little bits have changed here and there. How about you guys?
Yeah, it's very much the same here. I think there's a lot of, like, kind of just trying to forget that it all happened for most people. I think there was that, like, we were lucky that we were in Texas, so Texas opened up pretty quickly and everything. But I remember it just being a surreal experience to hear, like, we're closing down the trails here in Austin. They were closing down some outdoor places. And I was like, wait, like, somehow you're telling me that, like, strip clubs and liquor stores are still open, but, like, you can't go to the gym. It was just kind of strange to, like, I guess, like, that's the weird part, is we've kind of all gone back to normal, but there still hasn't been this idea that 80% of deaths could have been prevented by physical activity or proper diet or, like, going outside and everything. There isn't this, like, emphasis that, like, yes, it was a pandemic, but it was much worse than it could have been if we had just been a healthier society. Like, in a healthy, stable society, it wouldn't have even appeared on any radars, I'm pretty sure. 100%. And everything. But yeah, I know Darin's in Colorado, which was kind of similar.
Well, Colorado's kind of, I don't know, Colorado handled it sort of okay. I mean, it was, by county, really how their response was. But yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, yeah, everybody's kind of went back to normal. But I guess I run in a circle that is still very aware of what happened and is very alert to all the new research that's coming out that's sort of like, I don't want to get political on here, but that's really kind of proving what a lot of the conspiracy theorists were saying. So yeah, I think I don't think it should be ignored. Like, we need to talk about what happened and make sure that it doesn't happen again. I mean, that the response is actually more appropriate. Let's put it that way. Like, I think the response was horrible. It caused so many problems throughout society. The early childhood development with, like the 5 to 8-year-old children being locked down, masked, I think is creating. I think we're seeing the after effects now, the behavioral issues in schools, but yeah, we're kind of getting off track here, I think. But
it is like you say, like people have kind of like pretended nothing's happened, but you have got to look at it and think all of these like effects are now happening because of it. And it's frustrating as well. I don't know what your guys' views are on COVID and on the situation of lockdown, but it's frustrating for people who don't necessarily agree from the start with all of the restrictions and shutting down the gyms and all of this kind of stuff. How people were so on board with everything the government was saying right from the beginning. And then now it's like people have opened their eyes and they're totally against it all. But right at the start, they was all for it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I was too. At the very start, nobody knew what was going on, right? There was a lot of fear and panic, and I think the initial response was, we probably need to do something. But then as time went by and everything that they were saying was wrong over and over and over and over again, like you start questioning it, and yeah, I mean that whole period in time is going to be a topic of conversation for a very, very long time, and I don't know that we're going to ever know truly. I don't know if we'll ever truly know the entirety of the truth of the matter.
Yeah.
Of what the real consequences were. But yeah, I mean, such a tragic period, I think, in world history altogether, and it's going to end up, and there are a lot of ramifications from the responses. Just right down to, I mean, we're circling right back to what John had said about this new research with the drugs to combat obesity. We've in the United States specifically, we've taken this stance or against, almost like it's against diet, nutrition, exercise in favor of drugs, and it looks like this is just a perpetuation of that trend. And it's unfortunate that here specifically, I can't speak for other countries. Ollie, you certainly can for the UK, but that we are not. There's almost from the top down an adamant refusal to talk about the benefits of exercise and nutrition. Like it's mind-boggling, and I think it is kind of an after effect of COVID, because they pushed a drug here specifically instead of exercise and diet.
Yeah, and I think as well, a lot of people's mindsets in general, compared to years ago, how they are now, is just generally quite lazy, and people want that quick fix, so they'd rather just go for the drug or go for something that's going to quickly help them without doing anything hard, any kind of hard exercise, dieting. They want the easy option all the time. It's that kind of society now, which I don't think is right at all.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I think some people are waking up. That was another thing I was going to ask you. Did you pick up more clients throughout this? Have you seen like normal people kind of want to try to do something better with their fitness, or what's your experience been like that? Or did you kind of stay stable with clients?
Yeah. To be honest, I was there was a few loopholes in the UK in lockdown to be able to train people, so you could do it outside within certain distances and things like that. So I would always, throughout pretty much the whole lockdown, I was training clients. And yeah, I would say for me, I've kind of shifted in my whole business where I began training general people wanting to build muscle, get stronger. Now I'm more just athletes, powerlifting athletes and strongman athletes. So I've kind of changed who I'm aiming at. But I think in general, people are wanting to set targets and get healthier. That's what I've found. Yeah.
That makes sense because Darin and I actually recently had a discussion about like that difference of like training athletes versus training the general population and everything. So you say now you prefer focusing on like experienced athletes or people who are trying to do more sports specific training.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know about you guys, but I find it frustrating as a coach when when you tell obviously you've worked hard finding someone to plan, working everything out, and then not every lifestyle person, some of them are amazing, and most of them will stick to everything 100%. But you do get a lot of lifestyle people that just won't want to work as hard as people that have set goals, like athletes, powerlifters, strongman particularly, that have set goals, set targets. Those are the kind of people who I like to work with just because of their mindset really as well.
Yeah, it's kind of one of the reasons. I mean, there's a lot of reasons that I don't actually do coaching, but that's one of them. Because it's super frustrating. And I mean, even find that sometimes not everybody's going to be as committed as we are, right? And I think that was a hard part for me trying to coach is separating my aspirations from what other people's maybe, right? And having these high expectations that maybe weren't reasonable at the time. But yeah, it is frustrating. It's frustrating when you put the work in at a time to create a good program, and then next thing you know, somebody's way off program, posting on their social media, they're off program lifting, and then tagging you as their coach. And I'm like, no, don't tag me as your coach when you're not on the program.
No, 100% agree.
I am definitely not a great client to have, so I know how it is. And at this point, I just got to do my own thing. But I think that does make a big difference. So with your training and everything, do you like what % of training do you kind of like? Do you do conditioning training for everyone? Because I know sometimes something you'll see with some like a lot of power lifters or strongmen is this joking about like never do cardio, never do this or whatever. How do you work that in, or do you focus on conditioning a lot or in work capacity?
I focus on conditioning for every athlete, whether they're a powerlifter or a strongman. So even though powerlifting is just free lifts, just standing there one spot and it's static, I still think conditioning is super important. Number one, like you say, work capacity. The fitter you are, the more ability you have to recover from a workout and to actually push harder in the workout. Number two, obviously, overall health. The healthier you are, the longer you can push in the sport, depending on what level you are at the sport as well, is more and more important. And just generally day to day, being fitter and walking around, not getting out of breath between your sets, I think it's very important and often overlooked for strength sports. But I think it's coming around now, and it's becoming more and more accepted that you need to do this.
Yeah, I agree. Kind of that old fat body powerlifting or even strongman body style is kind of going out of, I don't know what I want to say. It's like it's trending away from that for sure. Because I think, I agree too. I spent a long time not putting a lot of emphasis on conditioning. And as soon as I did, actually just all around general athleticism and agility, I became a much, much better athlete in my opinion. And yeah, it's such an overlooked aspect, but you're right. I'm seeing a lot more strongman and powerlifting athletes doing more kind of cross-functional training, more working on being athletes rather than just stationary, lifters. I think there's a huge advantage in so many ways.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's been interesting to see the change over the past few years of like, so watching like on YouTube of Half Thor going from being 200 kilos down to like 150. That difference, I remember seeing some interviews, or I don't know how heavy he is right now. Actually, 150 was just kind of a guess. I'm bad at kilo math and everything.
He was about 150, I think.
Yeah. And I remember him getting out of breath, like interviews and stuff. Like that was the surprising thing, is that there was this period in strongman where you'd like watch them in interviews and they'd get out of breath and like walking and talking and everything. And now everyone in general, you have to be able to make it through a whole day and do these events that like do require like sprint backs and stuff. It's been
But
interesting to see.
let's be honest though. Some of the best Zydrunas Savicsis interviews were right after he competed, because his English already was like kind of a little rough, right? And then he's like breathing, dude. I mean, those were the best interviews ever, dude.
Yeah.
You're like, why are you actually interviewing right now? He can barely speak English the way it is, and now he's like he's breathing heavy on top of it. But I don't know, man. I loved it.
Yeah, no, I think like you say as well. I think it would the fact that strongman is going that way is good for the sport itself, because I feel like it opens it up more to everyday people, which will help grow it in turn. Because obviously, it's always great to see these huge freaks that weigh like 200 kilograms, but seeing the more athletic guys and the people that you can generally look up to and think my physique could look like that, or we're a similar size or a similar weight, it will make it more and more open to people wanting to get into the sport, which will drive it to grow and grow, in my opinion.
Yeah. One of my friends here locally, you probably met him at Clash 22, also as Adam Geiger.
Oh,
he's been saying that forever. Like, if you want to get more people in here, we got to look the part.
Yeah.
And I think for U105, or even lighter, I mean, that's a big facet of the attraction of those weight classes. I think is showing that not only can we be strong, but we can be fit. Because that's the attraction of CrossFit, really, right? At the end of the day, they're the fittest. They get crowned the fittest man or woman in the world, right? They're strong, they're fit, they're agile, they're conditioned, and I think strongman has got to capitalize on that and do better. They're going to get steamrolled by CrossFit. They're already starting to in some regards.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think it makes a big difference of like just overall performance. And I think that idea of like, you just want to generally be a fit person because you want what you're doing to actually enrich your life. So I think it's interesting because I saw there was a comment on Camby's one of his newest videos where someone was like, I feel like everyone these days is talking about strongman not being healthy, but like you look pretty healthy, everything. He is looking great and really strong. But I think things actually have been trending towards at least like a more athletic, healthier way in a way. I think seeing like people like Martins has been a great ambassador for the sport and everything. I remember watching Martins do like muscle ups as like a 300-pound person. Like that's pretty crazy considering I can't do a single muscle up. Like I think seeing those things and making it more relatable, because at the end of the day, to tie it back into our previous thing, like we're not necessarily getting good health advice from people above in the media and stuff like that. So I think becomes even more important of like seeing those people who can kind of inspire you, like you're young enough that probably most of your heroes would come from like YouTube and stuff like that. Like, who are your heroes or the inspiration for lifting and stuff like that growing up?
For me, growing up, definitely Eddie Hall. With him being from the UK, I always followed him ever since. It was just like him not even doing well at shows. So for me, someone like Eddie Hall, definitely.
Yeah, because I saw it must have been surreal to have him actually like watching you lift and everything. Was it the Arnold that he was watching you? There's that great clip of like him right beside you.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I didn't actually know he was there. They just called me on, just focused, went straight onto the bar, and then I see in the video he just walked up and was standing there. But straight after, I was like, "Oh, well, it's fucked." So I just went straight off the stage. I didn't even know until someone showed me afterwards.
That's awesome. So being an Eddie fan, I gotta ask, do you accept Thor's deadlift or no?
To be honest with you, at the time, I think at the time it was COVID, wasn't it? So
yeah,
I feel like he would have done it either way in a competition, but they weren't allowing competitions at the time. So I think he made the best out of the situation, and I would count it 100%. The ref was, the ref doesn't even they don't like each other, do they? So it's not like he had a biased ref or anything like that. I would take it. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Yeah, I mean that's a rational response. I think a lot of arguments online are kind of irrational because it was a unique time and they made the best of it. And still to this day, my opinion is that I mean both of them were very impressive deadlifts. Right, there's no question about it. Eddie was the first to pull 500. Huge milestone in the history of strength sports. But you know, then Thor. Dude, I mean, weighed everything on camera. There was no question what he pulled. It was structured, had such a great head judge in Vern Magnuson. So, yeah, cool. But I did notice that Colin Bryce sort of recently at Giants Live mentioned, like, gives Thor an honorable mention, but then was like, but he didn't do it in competition. So kind of like implying it didn't really count.
Yeah, because that's the thing. They were all saying like, "Oh, here's the person who's going to break Eddie's record." They were like, Hafthor has lifted it, but it wasn't in competition with an international judge. And I was like, I don't know how Magnus feels about the international judge. Like, I was like, Magnus was the person who took away his like scoops or whatever with the Viking press. Like,
right?
He's a decent judge for that. Like, it was very kind of surreal to hear that, of like repeatedly be like, can these people break Eddie's record and everything? And I am a fan of like Thor's record and everything, but I've kind of come around to think that he kind of deserves the skepticism for not doing 505. That's my stance on it at first, because I think like that's really what would have done it. Of like, if it hadn't just been just 1 kilo, namely because he looks so strong. Like I watched that clip over and over again. The fact that he just stands up with it, no crazy hitch or anything, then just sets it back down and like screams and then walks around and does his boxing promo, which I guess was the whole point of the lift at the end. Like, I don't know. A part of me, there's an alternate timeline where he actually did 505 or 510. I think 510 was there if he really had wanted it.
I think it was there, definitely.
Yeah, because I don't think anyone could beat Hafthor of like 2018 Hafthor. Like he and like getting up there to there and everything.
He may be back to it, man. He may exceed that 501 yet. We'll see.
Yeah, I was watching that because especially, I mean, seeing it would be interesting to see what happens of like going to a very, very lean physique, but still being 150 some kilos, like to then putting that mass back on. I think it could happen. Yeah, like it would be interesting.
There's numerous examples of people taking extended periods of time off from strongman and coming back just as strong, if not stronger. So I think, I mean, he knows what he needs to do to get to that size and that strength. I mean, he's already done it once. So we'll see. I mean, he's still not, I mean, how old is Thor? He's
33 or something.
Yeah, 30, I think he's a year older than I am.
He's technically still very young. He's still technically very young. So I think his best years are in the future anyway. So I'm excited to see if he really does make a comeback and what he accomplishes. I think it's going to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, I'd love to see it.
Yeah. I think it would be good. Do you have any predictions about who's going to be podium at like World's Strongest Man this year?
Podium.
Everything. How are you feeling about? Or like I think, World's Strongest Man or the Arnold Classic, the Strongman Classic.
Arnold's coming fast.
Yeah, the closer one, the Arnold Strongman Classic. What are your predictions?
For Worlds, I would say Alexi, Hooper, and Tom on the podium, those three. I don't think Alexi's doing the Arnolds, is he?
I haven't seen.
So I need to look at the list.
No, I think I would put Trey, Tom, and Luke on the podium at the Arnolds, I would say.
Yeah, Trey's just he's such a nice guy in person and everything, but just also massive, but has like that flexibility and can actually move, which is impressive. Yeah, especially just for being such a large guy. Like seeing him in person, it's like, and I've seen Hafthor in person, and they're both very like, huge. It's intimidating and everything. Because how tall are you?
I'm only 5'9".
Yeah, right about that size. Like it's crazy to like see people who are a full foot taller than you.
So Arnold, I just looked it up because I wasn't really certain of the entire roster, but it looks like Luke and Tom, Trey, Kilskowski's going to be back, hopefully. Pavlo, Mitch Schuper, Bobby Thompson, Rob Kearney, and Maxime are all, and then I don't know who Tom Evans is. That's the last name on there.
I feel like I saw him recently on something. What is, no, I was thinking he was in Britain's Strongest Man, but I don't think that was Tom Evans.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Think.
But I mean, I'm actually excited to see Kilskowski back. Hopefully he actually makes it this time. I know he's been trying to come back for the last couple of years, but injuries have been just plaguing him.
Yeah. Maybe don't train heavier than comp weight all the time. That might be the lesson from like Kilskowski's training thing. I remember whenever in his interviews, they were like, "How did you do this frame carry?" And he was like, "Oh, I did it heavier at home up a steep hill." And you're like, okay, that definitely could make you a champion and everything, but that might not be the best thing to regularly train heavier than like the heaviest weights you're going to do at like a world-class show.
This is my argument against strongman being healthy right here. Is that, we can be healthy like cardiovascularly, and being lean and athletic, but the piss pounding that we put our bodies through on our joints and the spine and everything, it's not healthy, man. There's nothing healthy about it. But I mean, that's part of the sport though. Like if you're not willing to take those risks and put your body, to the absolute limit, it's probably not a good sport for you, but it is an extreme sport, and that's what's really actually awesome about it.
That's true.
That's that danger aspect of it, doesn't it?
Yeah. What do you do for recovery? Like, what's your ideal schedule for like leading up to a comp and then like recovery afterwards?
Yeah. So for general recovery, week to week, I have 3 chiropractic sessions. So I spread those out throughout the week, and then I have 1 deep tissue massage session. And that will be focused on whatever's kind of niggling on that week the most. And then I like to hit the sauna a few times a week as well. I find that really just helps your breathing as well, your general, how you feel. I don't know if there's too much science behind it helping your muscles recover and that kind of stuff, but it makes me feel great. And I've looked into a lot of the cardiovascular kind of stuff with it, and it seems to be good. So that's kind of my protocol with it all.
Yeah, I think there's the research around like cold baths and sauna, or I think it for everyone that you can find that's positive, there's one that like maybe negates it. I don't know if there's any negative with sauna though. I don't think I've ever seen one with sauna. There's actually some research that suggests that 30 minutes, I can't remember how many days a week it says, but 30 minutes, I'd say like 3 or 4 days a week at least 80 degrees Celsius, it actually can help exponentially increase your natural growth hormone production at night, which should lead to good recovery, right? I'm a fan of hot therapy rather than cold. Like I think it's invigorating and kind of like from like a mental fortitude perspective, jumping in cold water is kind of a man maker, if you will, for lack of better words. But heat for me, like for muscle recovery, cold doesn't make any sense to me. It's never made any sense to me. Hot makes a lot of sense, and it always feels better for me.
Yeah, I think cold is good for mind training, like you're saying. I actually had someone tell me they was really good at a car hold, and he said the way he trained for it was with ice baths, just because he could calm himself down in that situation.
Interesting.
Yeah, so, but I don't think there's too much benefits recovery-wise for them either.
Yeah, I think cold is good, like locally. Like if you have like some joint inflammation or something, like wrapping a cold pack or something on that is probably good. Depending on how badly injured it is. I mean, inflammation is the body's response to heal, right? So you don't want to inhibit that too much. But yeah, putting your whole body in ice water, I don't know. It's becoming popular again here in the U.S. It's always a trend that just kind of cycles in and out,
Yeah.
Yeah. I think because we here in Texas, we have a lot of heat. Like the cold feels like a nice break from everything. Whereas I think if you're in like Colorado and you get a lot of natural cold exposure, I feel like it feels kind of overrated.
Oh man, so we were doing sauna the other day, and I went and rolled in the fresh snow that was falling, and then jumped into the ice bath. Snow is so much cold. Like the water was outside, like for a couple of days while it was, below freezing temperature. So I actually had to break through the ice when I jumped in the barrel. But the water was warmer than the snow. So
Jesus.
it was nuts, man. I've never done that before, but I may do it again just for the fun of it.
I'd much rather take heat over snow. Of like, there are some times where it's like 40 some degrees Celsius here, and I'd rather have that kind of heat than like have long, cold, freezing weather.
Absolutely. Hey guys, we're on like an hour and 5 minutes. I think do you have to get back to work, John?
Yeah, I gotta get
probably. Any last closing thoughts, Ollie? Like maybe where viewers can find you. You can plug your business if you want. Do whatever you got.
Yeah, no, thank you. So mainly on Instagram, and that's at coach_Ollie Clarke. So you can find me there, all my stuff on there. And yeah, thank you guys for having me on.
Yeah, man, it was a pleasure, man. Hopefully we can do it again sometime in the future.
100%.
Yeah, thanks for reaching out to us. That was real great.
Yeah, man. Hey, good luck. Good luck at the under 23 Britons, man. Looking forward to seeing how you do.
Yeah. It's real exciting. Thank you.
All right.
Support us on Patreon or Anchor, and find us on Instagram or Facebook.